Welcome back to a brand new season of the BBR D League. Last season, we made a huge mistake by drafting Raikou and dropping our round 1 pick for Mimikyu. So, yeah, let's just say that didn't quite go as planned and went about as well as you would expect it to. But this time around, we've got a fresh draft lineup, and with no Raikou in sight, I'm feeling optimistic about making a deep playoff run. Starting things off with our first pick, Iron Valiant. Now, it might look like an emo Gallade, but trust me, this Pokemon packs a serious punch with its impressive mixed attacking stats and speed. I chose it more because I've never used it in a full season of draft before, and I always love testing out new tools. Since most of you probably know how dangerous Iron Valiant can be, let's skip the nitty gritty since it's a pretty well known threat. To cover Iron Valiant's main weakness against bulky poison types, we paired it with one of the best poison punishers out there in Galarian Slowking. Sure, it might not have the flashiest design, but its Pokedex entry confirms that it's a wizard. Plus, just think about how it evolves from the hilarious Skirpy Galarian Slowpoke. I mean seriously, just look at Galarian Slowpoke. It's like Game Freak just slapped a yellow forehead on it and just called it a day. Easily one of the laziest designs since Klefki, which is a literal keychain with eyes. Next up, with our third pick, we snagged Tera Hydrael. This completes our edgelord core of Emo Gallade and Hydrael, which makes sense, right? I mean, Kieran used Hydrael, and we all know that he is the king of edgelords. Jokes aside, Hydrael is one of the most underrated Pokemon in draft format. I mean, with its Regenerator ability, solid bulk, high base powered moves, getting just Hydrael for just 10 points was a serious steal. Sure, its defensive typing isn't perfect, but Tera helps mitigate that. Plus, who doesn't love a good gamble with Fickle Beam? Now, why do I hear boss music played on a terrible recorder? Oh right, it's because I drafted Ursaluna. I've had a hate-hate relationship with Fraudersby in every league I've been in. But something tells me that this time, it's going to be different. Maybe it's just wishful thinking or I'm just coping. But Fraudersby can hit hard and has some surprising good matchups sometimes. Plus, its resist profile gives us an electric and ghost immunity, which is something that the team was kind of missing. We'll see if Fraudersby can finally shake off its fraud label. For our fifth pick, we decided to go with Hawlucha. I'll be honest, this Pokemon was more about me liking its design than anything else. Pairing it with Iron Valiant might not have been the most synergistic choice, but Hawlucha's gremlin-like moves can definitely catch opponents off guard. Also, in theory, Iron Valiant and Hawlucha should be able to weaken each other's checks, setting up for the other to potentially sweep. We'll see how this plays out in practice. Next, we're rounding our draft with Jolteon. It brings some much needed speed to the team. With Dragapult and Spectrier banned from the league, Jolteon's base 130 speed tier lets outspeed most relevant revenge killers in the format. Speed control is crucial in such a fast-paced environment, and for just 6 points, Jolteon was definitely worth it. This message was approved by the Raikou Hate Foundation. Now, I noticed our team was starting to develop a bit of a weakness to flying, ground, and ice types, so I grabbed Bronzong next. Normally, I'm not a big fan of Bronzong, but it covers many of our defensive holes and offers Trick Room support. This adds a whole new dimension to our strategy and gives us the option to flip the script when needed. To complement Bronzong, we picked Glaceon as a potential Trick Room abuser. I'll admit, I chose it mostly as a filler pick since I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to round out the draft, but it's an evolution which is always neat. With the same special attack as Kyurem, it can hit much harder than most people expect it to. After Glaceon, I realized that I needed a solid fire resist. With no great bulky waters left, I went with Suicune. I honestly think Suicune is a bit underwhelming in draft format, but its resist profile, it fits exactly what I needed. Plus, It might force opponents to bring Encore, which could open up opportunities for the rest of my team. For our penultimate pick, we drafted Staraptor. I picked Staraptor simply because I like burbs. Plus, it has some pretty funny Unga Bunga hit hard moves, which I always appreciate. And finally, for our last pick, we selected Trapinch. First impressions with Arena Trap can occasionally have their uses, so we'll see how Trapinch plays out. So, that wraps up our draft for the BBR D League. Our strategy this season is simple: to win and not lose. I'm really excited to see how this team performs, and hopefully we can have a solid run this season. But what do you think of this draft? Please let me know in the comments.